Dad, in the wake of Hurricane Ian, we are seeing a lot of folks needing to buy used cars and trying to buy new cars, but we know supply is short there. We're going to talk today about flood vehicles, how you can tell if a vehicle's been in a flood, how you can protect yourself, and maybe some recommendations as well for those in Florida, South Carolina, etc., who have been impacted by the storm. Sound good?
Does to me.
So we had a local news station put out a report on can you spot a flood damaged car? And Pops, I want to put you to the test here. What are the ways that we can tell if a vehicle's ever been in a flood? And we can't rely on just Carfax here, right?
Well, if you find a trout swimming in the front seat, then you know that car's probably been underwater.
Okay.
But the more legitimate way to tell is typically there's a smell associated with a vehicle that has been underwater or had some type of water damage. If you're looking at an older vehicle and it has fresh carpets in it, well, that would indicate more than likely they replaced the carpet in the vehicle because, well, it was flooded. If there's an odor associated, a musty odor associated with the vehicle, the foam in the seats is going to, the water's going to seep into that and you're going to get a musty smell, even if they change the seat covers. So smell, touch, you have to look for things like water lines. You might actually see,
wow,
a line where the water had gone up to in a vehicle. Look for rust in unusual areas.
Yep.
Door hinges, hood and trunk hinges. You would not expect those areas to normally encounter a lot of moisture. So look for that. Headlights, you can sometimes see some water still collected within the headlight housing. So there's any number of ways. And then the best way is to get an independent mechanic to thoroughly review any vehicle. And here's the key. The real key to this is that a lot of the cars that were flooded and will suffer flood damage in Florida will be repaired minorly and then shipped elsewhere in the country. So if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, you wouldn't necessarily expect to be buying a flood car, but that's where some of those cars could end up. So you just have to really be careful.
So pre-purchase inspection is critical importance. Join YAA.com/inspection. That'll get you a discount from our friends over at Lemon Squad. Now, that being said, Dad, we have done videos in the past about title washing and things like that. A lot of folks rely on Carfax's auto checks, things like that, to be able to be sure and feel confident buying a used vehicle. Pre-purchase inspection, of course, necessary as well. But we need to be careful here about title washing too. A lot of these vehicles that were impacted by these storms, that region of the country, I hate to say it, but like Louisiana, I know Louisiana wasn't impacted by Ian, but like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, a lot of title washing in Texas happens in those states. And ultimately that means that if a vehicle is a salvage vehicle, a flood vehicle, it may not reflect that on the title because it's been washed. And so I think it's important that at the end of the day, the things that you mentioned to look out for independently, on your own, look out for the pre-purchase inspection, of course, but you really can't, I hate to say, you can't rely on the title. You can't rely on the Carfax. You're going to have to do your own due diligence.
Well, and with Carfax, Carfax is only as good as the information that's reported to it. So vehicles that might have had flood damage, by the time that report makes it to Carfax, it could be 3, 4, 5, 6 months from the time of the incident, and it doesn't take 4, 5, 6 months to clean that car up and put it on a lot and sell it. And it could end up being sold with the clean Carfax at the time of sale because the information
and then a month later the Carfax is updated.
Yet. Exactly.
Now, why did you say, or what's your hypothesis for why those flood vehicles won't necessarily be for sale in that Florida region? They may be shipped off elsewhere in the country. Is that because they just go through the auctions and they get sent elsewhere?
Well, it becomes easier to sell a flood vehicle if you sell it somewhere other than in the area that was flooded. So that's why. Dealers and wholesalers are not a stupid lot per se. They will figure out where it makes the most sense to try and sell some of these vehicles, what auctions to ship them to, so that the buying public won't be suspecting of the fact that it might have been a Florida car that was underwater.
scary times, honestly. But these are the things you need to be aware of before you buy a vehicle in general, and especially right now in the wake of what happened with Hurricane Ian. And I mean, Pops, I haven't seen data on this yet. I've got to imagine tens of thousands of vehicles were flooded.
Well, certainly in the thousands, whether it's tens of thousands, I don't know. But it'll end up being a lot of cars that have suffered some type of water or flood damage. Some will be totaled. Some will be not. Some that have been totaled will be sold at auctions for totaled vehicles, and then they will be rebuilt and reconditioned. And hopefully those who rebuild them and recondition them will sell them to the public with the explanation that they had been in a flood and they've been reconditioned. But one never knows.